What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and this is the Extreme Rules 2017 post-show where I'll be recapping what transpired during the event and giving you my breakdown of my thoughts of all that stuff that had happened throughout the night. And let's start this off with something pretty generic here, just like an overall yay or nay. This pay-per-view wasn't good. This was not a textbook, this is what you should do for an event type of pay-per-view, in many, many ways. And one of those excuses that's thrown around, of course, is the fact that this pay-per-view looks completely different from what it seems like that they were going to be building towards because of Braun Strowman's injury. Understandable that they'd be in a bind where their main event that they had planned wasn't able to actually work, and they have to figure out an alternative. However, I don't think, and I think many of us agreed, we talked about this on the predictions, we've talked about this leading up to this and stuff, I don't think that WWE handled this anywhere near the right way that they should have. And I think that it's hard to kind of work in the idea that, like, they did take the right direction. I'd like to hear differing opinions if you guys disagree with me. You're perfectly willing to disagree with me. Not perfectly willing. You're perfectly able to disagree with me. And I'm not going to be all, butthurt and insensitive about it and stuff like that. So if you do disagree with what I say in any capacity in this post-show, then by all means, leave your comments below. Tell me what you think and stuff. But I don't think that this Fatal 5-Way was the right way to go, because I think that the fact that we lost out on Balor and Wyatt, and we lost out on Rollins and Joe, even though I didn't have the biggest amount of fandom for those two feuds, that hurt the overall state of this card tremendously. It's not even an issue where, like, we're missing out on the idea that maybe, say, the Dean Ambrose and Miz match could have been a false count anywhere, and wouldn't that be kind of cool? No, this was fundamentally the structure of the entire card got thrown in the loop. One of my issues with this is, if the writing team couldn't think of anything else to do other than a Fatal 5-Way, and they couldn't think of any way to add extra content to the pay-per-view, they either don't know how to do their jobs, or they do and they're just very lazy. Because they could have figured this out by just Googling stuff on the internet. And not to say, like, oh, if they would have checked out Smark Out Moment, they'd see that I could be on the writing team. I mean, that I do agree with that. I do think I'd be an asset for the writing team based off of some of the stuff I've seen over the years and stuff. But I think that if you just went on any kind of message board, if you went on any websites like eWrestling News, if you went on Bleacher Report, if you went on Sportskeeda, anything, you would see a lot of alternative ideas that they could have done. And you could see a lot of things that they missed out on too. Because, holy shit, we had all this downtime, and they had a lot of stuff they could have filled it with, and they for some reason chose not to. For instance, you have an hour-long pre-show where you're mostly recapping 6 matches on the card, and those 6 matches are not the biggest matches that need to be recapped. Dean Ambrose and The Miz have been feuding a very basic feud. Rich Swann and Sasha Banks versus Noam Dar and Alicia Fox. That feud is very, very simple. Rich Swann has been feuding with Noam Dar over Alicia Fox, kind of, for like 9 months, it seems, and Sasha Banks happened to lose a match or two to Alicia Fox. The end. The Alexa Bliss Bayley one, nobody specifically even wanted to see the recap of that, so if they took that out of their clips, what do you have to recap to begin with? Hardy Boyz and Cesaro and Sheamus. Hardy Boyz came back, they won the titles, Cesaro and Sheamus turned heel, they're fighting again. The end. Neville and Austin Aries, these guys have fought twice before. The end. And then you got the Fatal 5-Way. So you didn't need an hour for that. Thankfully, we did get Kalisto versus Apollo Crews, and the match was pretty good overall. Not something that wasn't skippable, which is another hindrance to not just the pre-shows that have been happening, but just this feud in general, and the fact that they booked this kind of stuff for the mid-card feuds, where nobody really cares all that much. But we also had room that could have been dedicated to a lot of other things. Where have Slater and Rhino been? Where have Gallows and Anderson been? How come we didn't get Goldust versus R-Truth? Why didn't we get any further story elements for either like the Kurt Angle thing or the Enzo Attacker storyline? All this kind of stuff could have been filling out some time on the pre-show or throughout the rest of the night. And this isn't the only thing that they did where they decided to specifically do segments that weren't capitalizing on their storylines and stuff. We also, later on in the middle of the night, had Elias Samson go to the ring, sing a song, and then leave. And he didn't wrestle a match. So he could have wrestled a jobber. He could have wrestled somebody like a Kurt Hawkins or a Curtis Axel and beaten them, or a no-name jobber. And that would have been better off for Elias Samson and would have eaten a little bit into the card. It would have gotten him on the card. And then you wouldn't have had to have the pay-per-view end a half an hour before they normally do and then shove a Raw Talk episode afterward. Because I don't think anybody really necessarily needs to watch Raw Talk if you're going to recap all this stuff on Raw tomorrow. Very frustrating with that kind of shit. But I do think we started off the night very well as far as the main card, which was the Intercontinental Championship match, Dean Ambrose defending against The Miz. And as weird as it is that was like an anti-Extreme Rules match, which we can get into a whole thing about gimmicks, and maybe I'll start ranting about that later on too. The match itself was pretty entertaining, and more entertaining than anything was just their decision to end the match the way that they did. I like that a lot. I thought this was hilarious. We had said before it would be great if The Miz just kind of has Maurice slap him and he gets the win by disqualification, and then that's the end of it. That's a smart play. John Cone, referee, is like, nah, fuck that. You're trying to, get around the system, so we're going to throw Maurice out. Miz, about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, whatever, pushes Dean Ambrose into the referee, and he's like, wait a minute, you're fucking hitting me and stuff like that? I'm going to possibly, maybe, I don't know if I... Cause dragging it out, that kind of thing. And The Miz ends up happening to get a skull-crushing finale, and he pins Dean Ambrose. That's like, fuck you. He didn't actually have to get the disqualification win. He pinned him, and he won by a different way and all that. I thought that was great. So I'm very interested to see what they go in the future for this. Not in the regards of the standard rematch that I think that we're going to get at Great Balls of Fire, but whoever starts feuding with The Miz afterward. That's what I'm interested in. And to a certain extent, where does Dean Ambrose go from here? Because he's got some other people he can feud with. I still think Dean Ambrose versus Samoa Joe can be a good feud. I still think that that Dean Ambrose can have a decent feud with Braun Strowman. Still actually looking forward to a possible heel turn with Ambrose. And he could have a decent feud with Finn Balor. But we'll see. Nonetheless, I thought the Intercontinental Championship thing was fun. Then we had a terrible promo with Bayley. Talking about, like, nobody thinks that I can be extreme. Well, one time I used a little bit of blue and green glitter. Crazy. Like, that kind of shit. She didn't say anything about glitter, but I figured that might as well be what she said because it was really pointless. What do we have after that? We had the mixed tag team match, which, skip it. Not the worst match in the world, of course, but who gives a shit at this point? The whole feud is basically Noam Dar and Alicia Fox got together because of the Cedric Alexander thing. Cedric Alexander got injured. They wanted to continue the story, and they shoved in Rich Swann for, I don't know, a year, it feels like at this point. Like, I know it's not actually a year, but it feels like it. God damn. And Sasha Banks is basically just that she had lost a match or two to Alicia Fox. So, this did not matter at all. This was the type of thing that might not have even made the pre-show if we would have gotten the Balor and Wyatt match and the Rollins and Joe and the ambulance match and stuff. So it's hard to imagine that people really were invested in this. I highly doubt it. If you were, again, tell me I'm wrong. I could be wrong. And to each his own. If that was your favorite part of the night, then awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it, But you're going to hear me go into another diatribe about this same kind of stuff that I've been talking about a little bit here and there for months or weeks or whatever. This pay-per-view was hindered so much by the fact that the brand split sucks and that they have the Universal Champion does not show up because you need to replace the championship with another kind of main event caliber match. And your go-to match was going to be Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns in an ambulance match. Well, the brand split, what hurts this is if they would have had the ambulance match happen, we could have had these other matches on the card, and it still would have been like, man, that sucks that we don't have the Universal Champion again, because we haven't seen it since WrestleMania. But, okay, it's not the end of the world. We still at least have this match and this match and this match to look forward to. The fact that we don't have that match happening means that with the brand split, they didn't have as many options of where they can pull talent from and where they can kind of boost people up for a month, because those people that are main event caliber talent are on SmackDown. So the alternative was, let's throw in a Noam Dar and Alicia Fox match, and let's, for some fucking reason, ignore stuff like the Goldust thing, because we just can't think of anything better than throwing these people in a Fatal 5-Way, because what would we do with Roman Reigns? You don't have any better options? You couldn't have done anything with Roman Reigns, really? It's kind of disappointing to see. So I highly, highly doubt in some other dimension, in some parallel universe, that this match, this mixed tag team match, ever would have existed on this card if we would have been able to have a non-brand split, or if the championship wouldn't have been on Brock Lesnar, or if they would have been able to put Brock Lesnar on this card, or anything like that. I mentioned about the Elias Samson thing. To have him come into the ring and sing a song is better than nothing, but it's almost nothing. So he would have been better off wrestling Curtis Axel or something like that and just beating him. Then we had whatever the fuck this was with the Raw Women's Championship Kendo on a stick on a pole, Kendo stick on a pole, not Kendo on a stick on a pole match. We know that this feud's been bad, and I hate to say something like this, but I think it's not all the writer's fault. I think that the majority of it's the writer's fault, but I think part of it's Bayley's fault, actually. Because Alexa Bliss has been the best person on the microphone as far as myself and a lot of other people are concerned. But Bayley's character is very, very simple. And it's not hard to get Alexa versus Bayley as the two of them butting heads for their characters. Bayley is a sweet, childish, bubbly type of girl, and Alexa Bliss is a mean, nasty bitch. So you get Alexa Bliss being a mean, nasty bitch to Bayley, and you're done. It's pretty simple. If the writers got in the way, and they did that kind of this is your life thing, they're at fault. But Alexa and Bayley didn't do anything to really salvage it either. And Bayley, to me, is getting more and more and more boring of a character to sit there and watch. So with Alexa and Bayley, we were going into this match with like tons and tons of negatives already. And the idea of the kendo stick on a pole match isn't all that thrilling to begin with, because what do you do with that? You know, you've got a kendo stick on a pole, and the objective of the match is you can use it if you obtain it. Now, the other person can use it if you obtain it too. And it makes no sense. You know, we're supposed to suspend our disbelief, I know. But it makes no sense at all that somebody would be like, oh my god, I have to get the kendo stick on the pole, because if not, I'm going to get disqualified. It should be a no disqualification match. And if it's a no disqualification match, you should walk into that with a fucking chair in your hand, and you should hit somebody with that instead. And if you have like a stipulation, like a flag match, where you need to, you know, flag on a pole, you got to take the flag out of the pole, and you win that way, like retrieving a belt in a ladder match, then okay. But if you're going to go with that, why have the kendo stick on a pole? Because you're not going to grab the kendo stick and win the match. Instead, it's you can grab the kendo stick and it can be used. And it's just a piss poor idea of a gimmick to begin with. So with that, it's also a hindrance when you've got Bayley grabs it and it falls, and then Alexa basically picks it up, hits Bayley a bunch of times, and pins her. That's the entire match. I mean, I'm glad that they cut it shorter. I didn't want this to be an extra 40 minutes worth of bullshit. But this did neither of them any favors at all. This just looked like the type of shit that we used to get with the old women's division, the Divas division. And that's not good, because Alexa and Bayley are far better than this. Far better than this. The gimmick itself hurt them a lot. The promos leading up to this hurt the feud a lot. And it's a shame that we can't go back in time and just go, can you guys be yourselves and just kind of go out there and do a good job? It's really a shame. Because this is going to look bad, not only on Bayley for being like a challenger who can't really put up a fight against the champion, but it's also going to look bad on Alexa Bliss because it's like, well, her feud with the title is against this shit feud against Bayley. So Bayley doesn't look good as a challenger. Alexa doesn't look good as a champion. The women's division doesn't look good because there's no other alternative to be like, well, at least that other thing that's going on with Mickie James and Nia Jax is good. You know, they're not doing anything. So this was just a train wreck. It was awful. That moves us on to the Raw Tag Team Championship Steel Cage match, which I will give them credit for this. I really like how they made this that you had to escape the cage to win, and that was it. Because I've never really liked the cage matches where you can win with pinfall or a submission. I always think that it should be good as just like escape the cage. And I disagree with, I think it was Wega was saying that he doesn't like the door on the side. I think the door is okay, but I would take it or leave it. I prefer people climbing over because it's a little bit bigger of a spectacle and stuff. But this was kind of a mess in certain ways. It didn't feel like an Extreme Rules match. And the tag team aspect to it was a little bit awkward. We had like Jeff Hardy get out of the cage, but his team doesn't win. So Matt's in there getting his ass kicked. And then Jeff has to come back in, which means now it's back to normal. And this could have been better. Let's put it that way. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. It wasn't good. But for a team like the Hardy Boys, it used to be Team Extreme, and you've got Extreme Rules, and they've done crazier stuff. I've seen the whisper in the wind off the cage numerous times. I don't want them to do it anymore, kind of. It's like, well, now it's diminishing returns. How many times are you going to watch somebody do the same spot and still think that it's as crazy as the first time that you saw it, you know? There's somebody out there that's the first time they saw it, and they're going to go apeshit, that's for sure. But I don't want Jeff Hardy to fucking hurt himself doing something that's not going to be worth it. And with this whole thing, I don't think that this match was really worth all the time and effort that we've gotten invested into it. Same kind of thing with the Cruiserweight Championship match. That was a submission match, which, oddly enough, had countouts and disqualifications as part of it. Neville and Austin Aries have had 3 matches now. I thought they'd be better, and I'm sick and tired of their feud. I don't want any more Neville and Aries. And to tell you the truth, I kind of want Austin Aries off of 205 Live to begin with. Like, I'd rather him just move over to SmackDown and be part of the mid-card scene, or part of the mid-card scene on Raw, or something like that. And I hope that's the case, but I don't think they're going to go with that. I could be wrong in the next 12 hours, but I think we're going to go with Austin Aries versus Akira Tozawa, and I think that Neville is going to start feuding with Cedric Alexander. If that's the case, give the belt to Cedric Alexander. I like that guy. But I do think it was a good idea that Neville retained. Just wasn't a big fan of the match overall. Again, not the worst thing in the world. Nothing really good standing out from it, though. That led us into the Fatal 5-Way match, number 1 contenders match as well. Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, Bray Wyatt, and Roman Reigns. And I admit, at this point, I kind of checked out. I figured the only thing that really matters here is who wins. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, this is going to be Seth Rollins, you know, whatever. Maybe they're going to give it to Finn Balor, blah, 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 blah. Samoa Joe wins. And my first reaction was, oh shit, Samoa Joe wins? That's fucking awesome. And then I went, oh fuck, Samoa Joe won? That's fucking terrible. Because that means he's going to get his ass whooped by Brock Lesnar. I hope I'm wrong. I sincerely hope I'm wrong. I would love to see Samoa Joe be Universal Champion. Ain't going to happen. And they better not fuck him over and make him last 5 minutes against Brock Lesnar, because that's just shit. You don't do that to these people that are going to be working every month, every week, just because Brock Lesnar is the bigger star and he needs to win his matches in 3 minutes and stuff. It does nothing for anybody at this point. Brock Lesnar is already the guy as far as like legitimacy and being that type of different caliber tier. He's treated better in so many different ways. He's paid better in so many ways. You don't need to make him this untouchable guy that nobody on the roster can compare to. That just makes Joe look worse. Now, if Joe does win, that'll make Joe look fucking amazing. But I don't have faith in it. And I know some people are going to go, have faith, you don't know. Maybe they're going to do a twist. Maybe this is going to happen. Maybe that's going to happen. I honestly don't. At this point, I know better than to get my hopes up. So I'm not too happy about it. I would have rather had seen, if we're going to see somebody just get their ass whooped by Brock Lesnar, I would have rather have seen Finn Balor get his ass whooped. At least it would make sense. And Finn Balor getting his ass whooped against Brock Lesnar looks like that would make for at least a little bit more of an entertaining kind of thing, because he could get thrown around better. I don't want to see Samoa Joe get thrown around and ragdolled and look half his size. Finn Balor is half of Brock Lesnar's size. Maybe a third of his size, whatever. That being thrown around makes a lot more sense than a guy like Samoa Joe. Maybe even Seth Rollins, if it would have been like, yeah, throw around Seth Rollins, whatever. Neither of those scenarios would have been really good in my mind. And Bray Wyatt wouldn't have been really good. I just want Roman Reigns to beat fucking Brock Lesnar for the title. Or Braun Strowman to beat Brock Lesnar for the title. Or in this case, I'm rooting for Samoa Joe to beat Brock Lesnar for the title. I just have no interest in watching Brock Lesnar beat the hell out of people anymore for the championship. If it's not for the championship, have at it. Have a little bit of fun. Set up a Finn Balor match and waste my time a little bit, whatever. It's not as big of a deal. But for the main thing on the entire card that you only see as like a specialty match now and again, I think it sucks. So I enjoyed the match enough that the match was decent. One of the better matches of the night. But I need to hold and reserve my judgment as far as where they go with Samoa Joe. This might end up being, in retrospect, a really, really good thing. Or one of the worst things that they've done the entire year. But I do think Extreme Rules 2017 is already going to be going on my list as one of the worst pay-per-views because it's just bland as all hell. And I wasn't a fan of it. Now, I hope that you had a better time watching it because if I wouldn't have been hanging out with a bunch of my buddies at the time, I probably would have had even more negative things to say about this. But thankfully, I had my distractions and they kind of distracted me from some of the crap that was happening. But if you have any differing opinions or you want to echo what I have to say, drop them in the comments below. Make sure that you hit this subscribe button to follow us and see what else is happening over the next couple of days. As far as I can remember, I think the main event for this week is going to be a Sporkle quiz of Money in the Bank winners, but maybe we'll do something else. I don't really know. And, kind of see what happens with going the flow and see if anything big is going on throughout the week or so. At the very least, the next time that you're going to be hearing my voice is most likely going to be the hot tags, and then following that's going to be the Ask Him and the other Rest Hold content, so stay tuned for that kind of stuff. We also have all the articles on the website, so if you want to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to get notifications when that happens, that's the best way to get the results for that kind of stuff. And, yeah, I think that's it. So, thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate it, of course, as always. If you want to follow me directly, you can follow me at a Mango Tree and at Tony Mango. And if you want to follow the Fanboys Anonymous stuff, fanboysanonymous.com and, all the other kind of social media stuff that goes with that. But that's it. So this has been another Smark Out moment, and I'm being counted out.